So in a compound inequality, it just means we have more than one inequality involved in the statement. So in this example, let's graph the solution set to the compound inequality on a number line and write the solution in interval notation. We have x is greater than -7 and x is less than -2. What does that and mean? It means intersection. That and means intersection. So when you see this compound inequality, these two inequalities together, x is greater than -7 and x is less than -2. It's kind of like a set of instructions. You have to find the set where both of these are true at the same time. So in other words, you have to find the overlap. If you think of it in terms of a graph, where does the graph of x is greater than -7 overlap with the graph of x is less than -2? You have to take all the numbers that these inequalities have in common. So one way to do that would be to do two separate number line graphs and then overlap them. So you could do it like this. So I'll put -7 somewhere on this thing, maybe right here. And whoops, I got a little ahead of myself there. Let me mark it with that and that. And then what kind of symbolism do I have around the -7 itself? Could be, you could use an open circle, that's fine, or a left parenthesis, right? I'm going to use a left parenthesis to indicate -7 is not included. And then where do I shade? To the right. That's how I knew to use a left parenthesis, because the shading's like the sentence. If you think of a sentence with parentheses around it. And so it's a left parenthesis because it's to the left of the words, or the shading region, the shaded region, that is, which acts like the words in a sentence. So like that. And then you could do another number line graph right below it, line it up. Where is -2 in relation to -7? To the right or to the left? To the right. And then if x is less than -2, where do you shade? You shade to the left, and then it just keeps going forever, right? And then what kind of symbol around the -2 do you use? A right parenthesis, because the shaded part is to the left of it, right? So you use a right-hand parenthesis on that. Now, do you see where they overlap? Yeah. You could almost, I mean, in your mind, in your imagination, you could almost go like this, right? And then cut off the part to the left of -7. So the overlapping shaded region is going to be from here to here. Does everybody see that? So not that you need to graph this every time to comprehend that, but if you haven't seen this stuff in a while, it doesn't hurt to do two separate graphs. So you're going to shade right in between -7 and -2. Now, how do you get the interval notation from this? Yeah, just strip away the number line graph, right? And it goes from -7. You keep the numbers, put a comma between them, and then you can use, since if you used open circles here and here, you'd change it to parentheses at that point. But the way I did it, it just reminds me what it's going to look like in interval notation. And by the way, then, this tells us we can shorten that compound inequality. So is there another way to write the original compound inequality with a single x in it using inequalities? According to that graph or that interval notation, what's x in between? So I could use less than symbols like this and put a -7 to the left of x and a -2 to the right of x. Isn't that equivalent? X is between -7 and -2. So this says -7 is less than x, which is less than -2, all in one one statement, a little more compact statement. And it really does mean that the same thing as that original inequality. So these statements, these are equivalent. Okay?
Are you looking for that in your answer as well?
Nope. I'm giving you more for your tuition dollar. All right. But I do want you to realize this. You should realize this, but no, it wasn't part of the answer. So I won't circle it. So the answer was essentially this guy. Let's contrast that problem with this one. Remember, the directions are to write basically this compound inequality in interval notation. But we're going to do number line graphs along the way to help us with that. So we have t is less than -4 or t is greater than or equal to 1. So what does the or mean? What do we associate or with? We associate or with union. So we're going to lump everything together. If you think of this one as two separate number line graphs, you're just going to take everything from both number line graphs and lump them into one number line graph, right? So I don't think it's as important in this one to do two separate ones. You could, like I did in the last problem, but I think it'll be pretty clear to do it all in one number line. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to graph this guy and then this guy on the same number line, because that's what we do when it's an or statement or a union. We put everything into one big set. So, okay, t is less than -4. So I'm going to put -4 here. Which way do I shade? To the left. So something like that, right? And then what kind of symbol around the -4? Either an open circle or a right parenthesis. Everybody understand why it's a right parenthesis? Any questions on that? Okay, and then on the same graph, I'm going to go ahead and lump, since it's a union symbol, I'm going to lump t is greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1. And let's see, 1 would be over here somewhere to the right of -4. And then which way would I shade? I would shade to the right. And what kind of symbol would I use around the 1? Because it's greater than or equal to, I would use a bracket there. Yes?
Do like a filled-in circle?
You can, but don't mix and match. Don't do a parenthesis on one and a filled-in circle on the other. But that's all I ask, yeah. Now, I do it this way because it gets you used to interval notation a little more quickly and the symbolism a little more quickly. But if you're used to using closed or open circles, that's fine as long as you use it correctly on the number line graph. But when you convert it to interval notation, you have to use the parenthesis and the bracket. So in fact, this is two different intervals, right? All in one. What's the left-hand interval? What's the symbol that's over here somewhere to the left of -4? You never quite get there. Negative infinity, right? So what is that? How would you write that? Just this part in interval notation. So, yep, so negative infinity, comma, -4, parentheses all around. Perfect. And then we're going to union that with that shaded region. In fact, we're going to use the union symbol when we use interval notation. We're going to put a union right in between the two intervals. So put the union symbol in there. And then, okay, so convert this guy circled in yellow to interval notation. What do you get? So 1 comma infinity, bracket, parenthesis, right? Because you never get to infinity. That's it. So the answer is comprised. It's a compound inequality with an or statement. So usually you'll get two different intervals all union together, both union together in your answer. Yeah. When it says or, yeah, the key word is or there, and that means union. As opposed to the other one, which was and it meant intersection. So we took the overlap of the two number line graphs. But that's why in the last one I showed you two different number line graphs. I thought it was more important to see you're really just taking the overlap in the last problem. In this one, since it's union, put it all on one graph because you're taking everything anyway.